This is Sherm Radio in partnership with Timbre Media, podcasters for India Inc.
Hello and welcome to Sherm Radio. You're listening to Sherm on Air, and with you is a Sharma. This is Rakesh Sharma, and today on Sherm on Air, I will be talking about music and work and productivity. Seemingly unconnected things, but there is a connection, and that is what I'm here to tell you. I'm like Moses coming down from the burning bush, holding up some commandments to tell you that there is a way we can work better. As we've been saying, and as the HR leaders that we've been talking to have been saying, these are unprecedented times. Perhaps the last time we found ourselves in a situation like this was during the Second World War, and it is safe to say that none of you listening to me right now were around during that time. These are difficult times, and difficult times call for new and innovative solutions. Team managers and HR departments across the country and indeed the world are trying to find newer and more creative ways of keeping teams engaged. Most of us working from home are trying to be our productive best and put our best foot forward. What if I told you that there is a single solution to both of those problems? Team building and team engagement and employee engagement and personal productivity at work? Well, the answer lies in something that we all do every day without realizing it: listening to music. So, how can music help you become more productive? How can it play a component in keeping teams engaged and keeping morale high? Well, I have some answers. In fact, neuroscience answers. In addition to that, I will be speaking to somebody who has been involved in the business of using music to create employee engagement for over a decade. All of that is coming up on Sherm on Air today with me, Rakesh Sharma. Today, it is going to be all about music.
This is Sherm Radio in partnership with Timbre Media, podcasters for India Inc.
The great philosopher of our times, Madonna, said, "Music makes the people come together." You know what else music does? Music makes you concentrate more and be more productive. Research has shown that music can improve both productivity and cognitive performance in adults. Listening to music can help people manage anxiety, become motivated, and stay productive. We just need to know what kind of playlist to make, and I will help you with that in just a bit.
You are listening to Sherm Radio in partnership with Timbre Media, podcasters for India Inc.
The Brilliant Sound Survey, which took place some years ago, showed that those who listen to music at work found its effects more potent than a cup of coffee, with 68% of the participants saying listening to music at work makes them more productive. In fact, it has other additional benefits as well. 70% of the respondents on that survey said they find someone with good taste in music more attractive. And I'm sure those of you who exercise already know that working out with music just makes you work out longer and increase intensity. In one study, they examined the relationship between music tempo and productivity. So that answers your question of what kind of music should you be listening to. Songs with 121 beats per minute are the right mix. Now, what is a song with 121 beats per minute? You might be wondering. Here are some answers. Call Me Maybe. Remember that song from a few years ago? I just met you and this is crazy. That one. That is 121 beats per minute. There is I Wanna Dance with Somebody by Whitney Houston and several Bollywood songs that are in 121 beats per minute. On the one hand, it is true that it makes you more productive to listen to these kinds of music at 121 beats per minute. But there is also the flip side to it. Songs where you can listen to the lyrics might not be the most ideal pieces of music to pick. Sometimes instrumental music is much better because you won't be distracted by the words. The bottom line is listen to music you enjoy as long as it is not too familiar, because then you'll be singing along and not necessarily being productive, or lyric heavy, because if it is heavy on lyrics, you might get distracted.
You are listening to Sherm Radio in partnership with Timbre Media, podcasters for India Inc.
Now, on the one hand, I told you about the 121 beats per minute kind of songs, but on the other, there is classical music. You might have heard of something called the Mozart effect, where one study suggested that listening to classical composers can enhance brain activity and act as a catalyst for improving health as well as mental well-being. Several studies confirmed that listening to classical music enhances one's ability to manipulate shapes and solve spatial puzzles. This study happened in the 90s and it spawned an entire business. A lot of pregnant women playing classical music, thinking the child growing inside will grow up to be intelligent. In fact, in the United States, the governor of Georgia, Zell Miller, even proposed a bill providing every child born in the state with a classical music CD. This Mozart effect came under some fire again in the late 90s. Nature, which is one of the best-known scientific journals of the world, went on to show that this perceived improvement in cognitive tasks actually came not from listening to Mozart, but because the people who were listening to this music just ended up being in a better mood. Meaning, Mozart makes people happy, and being happy improved their performance. Much later, there was another recent study which tracked 56 software engineers as they worked either in complete silence or while listening to different types of music. It found an increase in both mood and quality of work while listening to music. So in other words, listening to music itself might not have a direct effect on your productivity and concentration, but there is an intermediate step in between. There's one more station. Listening to music puts you in a better mood, and when you're in a better mood, you just work better. There are some other studies that also go on to show that when you listen to ocean waves or rain falling or a water fountain sound, all of these things can also help you get better at work and concentrate better. Another unlikely example is video games music. Any of you who might be fans of video games know that every element of a video game is designed to create an enhanced gaming experience for all of your senses, and the music has been composed specifically to help you focus on your task without being distracted by a whole bunch of sounds. So, classical music and the nature sounds that I mentioned earlier and video games music are some sounds that can actually help you increase concentration.
You are listening to Sharm Radio in partnership with Timbre Media, podcasters for India Inc.
But if you want to have some music for creative thinking and to have those eureka moments of like, aha, I realized something, there is a solution to that as well. One scientist, a cognitive behavioral therapist who in fact worked with Spotify, called Dr. Emma Gray, did some research about the benefits of certain kinds of music. She found that listening to music which is set to 50 to 80 beats per minute puts the brain in an alpha state. Now, when we are awake, we are typically in a state of mind that is generally known as the beta state. But when our brain waves slow down to between 7 Hz and 14 Hz, we are in a state of mind called alpha, which allows us to be more receptive, more open, and even less critical. This state of mind is what scientists associate with creativity, imagination, memory, and even intuition. Like I said, those aha moments. And if you want to be in one of those moods, I can suggest a few songs there as well. Mirrors by Justin Timberlake is one example. Chasing Pavements by Adele is another example. Last Goodbye by Jeff Buckley is a good example as well. The key is this. Music therapists have, in fact, a specific order in which you can do these things. There is a principle called ISO principle, that is ISO principle, which a lot of music therapists use to alter the mood of a patient. So what the therapist does is he will match the music to how the patient is feeling at that time and then gradually alter the songs to achieve the desired mood state. The songs at the beginning shouldn't force you into a state of productivity. You should just ease into it. When you suddenly get cold water on you, you know how odd that feels and you know how disconcerting it is. But you ease into it by slowly decreasing the temperature of the water and you're comfortable. You're in the groove of a swim. It's the same thing with music as well. You can start with songs like Here Comes the Sun by the Beatles and then listen to songs like that for a bit while you get ready for your productive state and then go on to your 121 beats per minute song and there you are, thick in the middle of productive zone.
You are listening to Sharm Radio in partnership with Timbre Media, podcasters for India Inc.
I've been waxing eloquent about the power of music when it comes to productivity. You might be wondering, what is the science behind all this? Well, listening to music can activate the brain's reward system, specifically the dopamine pathway. When we eat food that we like, when we do things that we enjoy, a hormone is released in our brain. It is called dopamine. So what the brain ends up doing is this. By associating a reward behavior like music with a desirable effect, that is work getting done, you're training your brain in the same way that you can train a dog with treats. In fact, one neuroscientist called Daniel Levitin wrote a book called This Is Your Brain on Music. In that, he says music can make repetitive tasks way more pleasurable and increase your concentration with the task. For example, one study discovered that music could improve the performance of surgeons who take on repetitive non-surgical lab tasks. There is another study which sort of ties into it about how music can make you less anxious. And we all know the less anxious we are, the better work we do. In one study, there were a bunch of patients who were about to undergo surgery. They were all given a choice. Just before going into surgery, you either have the choice of listening to the kind of music you want to listen to, or take an anxiety medication, that is an anxiolytic. So a few people chose the pill, a few others chose music. And both of them were monitored for the stress hormone, that is cortisol. At the end of the study, the researchers discovered that the patients who listened to music experienced less anxiety and lower cortisol levels than those patients who took anti-anxiety drugs. Music, therefore, brought down anxiety and bettered their mood, which brings me back to where I began with. Music improves your mood, better mood makes a more productive person. So in this world, when I'm by myself at home trying to be my productive best, and our HR teams are trying to keep all teams together, how do we incorporate music? Because clearly, this is a marriage of the best of both worlds. The person that I'm going to speak to next has an idea about this. Seetal Iyer is the co-founder and head of content of Timbre Media, which, by the way, presents this podcast as well. And Timbre Media has, for the past 11 years, been the voice of India Inc. They have provided corporate, customized radio services and internal podcasts for the who's who of India Inc. Infosys, TCS, Wipro, Accenture, BPCL, HPCL, Flipkart, you name it, you got it. They have worked with all of them. So my question to Seetal is simply this. Hi Seetal, welcome to Sharma on Air. We are talking about music and work and productivity today, and you have an idea or two about the same. We've spoken about the role of music in increasing productivity, according to what research has to say. But what else can you tell us about its role in team building and employee engagement and team morale, based on the 10 years plus experience you've had in this field with Timbre Media?
Well, thanks a lot, Rakesh, for asking me that question. Well, as it turns out, one of our most popular corporate radio formats is the one that actually uses music. And I believe this is because nothing, I think, unites us as a species as music does, our love for music. So across the length and breadth of India, people have been listening to radio. This is something that they're familiar with. So we use that whole feel of listening to FM radio or All India radio on our corporate radio shows by including music. And sometimes we even get employees of an organization to take control of the playlist, as we call it, by requesting for songs. Now that really sort of makes it engagement plus communication for us. There's another use case for music. You know, when you want to humanize a certain leader, when you want to make them appear a bit more approachable, a bit more, relaxed and easy, music really helps. Because I recall this interview. Of course, Vishal Sikka has always been that sort of a person, a very approachable, very easy person, leader that you can relate to. But yeah, even in his case, we did this interview with Vishal Sikka. He was at that time the CEO of Infosys. His wife was on that show as well. He just sort of, broke out into a song, Rim Jim Gire Savan. And I'll never, I think, ever listen to Rim Jim Gire Savan and not think of Vishal Sikka. The two are kind of fused for me. And I suspect that's probably the case for a lot of Infosians. They will recall that moment, even if they don't recall anything else about the conversation. I hope our corporate radio clients are not really listening, but you get the drift, right? People tend to be disarmed when they talk about things that they're really passionate about. So I remember the chairman of Hindustan Petroleum, he took the trouble of actually coming up with a playlist that was in sync with a few of the communication points that he had made for his show. So for every point, he had a song that was somewhat related. And I think that was special because he came there and he spoke about all these songs. He spoke about the things that were important to the organization. He found this link, and that was another memorable moment. So all kinds of things can happen if music is part of the experience.
Thank you so much for that, Seetal. And with that, we come to the end of this edition of Sharma on Air. Music is a win-win situation. You become more productive, you can concentrate better. Team building is better when you put some music into the daily proceedings. So what are you waiting for? Go ahead and make your teams and indeed your companies more musical, and by extension, more productive. Until the next time you hear from me, this is me, Rakesh Sharma, taking your leave and thanking you again for joining me on Sharm On Air, right here on Sharm Radio.
This is Sharm Radio in partnership with Timbre Media, podcasters for India Inc.